What is the number one thing that you should be thinking about and concerned with if you don't know the answer? Thinking about if you are planning to pursue any real estate investment, I don't care what it is. What is the number one thing that matters? Knowing where your profit's coming from. So I think back to when I started getting into real estate and even before that. So growing up, I always heard or I thought that if you own a rental property, you're rich or you're profitable or something, that rental property is just everything's profitable. If you own one, it has to be profitable. Turns out that's not true. And I think back to when I first started actually actively looking for rental properties, I had no idea what I was looking for. All I knew at that time, because I was looking in California, all I knew at that time is like something about the numbers didn't make sense to me, but I didn't know what. I didn't know how to run the numbers. I didn't know that I should run the numbers. I had no idea what I was looking for. So if you're like me and you grew up just assuming that if you're a real estate investor, you're profitable and probably rich, that is absolutely not the case. And so I talk a lot about in my videos of like when you're getting started, like the things you need to know. I wrote about it in my book. I'll link to that in the comments. I write about it or I talk about it in videos. I'm huge on this because I was one of the culprits of it myself. Is I didn't know what I was looking for. I didn't know necessarily what made an investment property profitable. And I quite frankly didn't know that it was possible that it wouldn't be profitable because we just assume real estate investing is profitable. If you're pursuing an investment property of any kind, flip, rental property, burr property, whatever, understand and have a plan of where you assume your profit is going to come from. Of course, anything can happen. Something doesn't work out, freak of nature, risk, whatever. It's not a guarantee that it's going to work out, but have a plan. It's kind of like if you're starting a business, why would you create a business plan? Well, because the whole goal of your business is to be profitable. So how are you going to make it profitable? Huge. That's what a business plan is for. It's like, oh, well, here's my demographics, here's my plan, here's my product, the whole plan. The whole point of a business plan is to help pave a path to make your business profitable. Real estate investing is a business. Even if you own one investment property, treat it like a business. You are the entrepreneur, you're the boss. This is your money. How are you going to make it profitable? This sounds dumb, but you'd be surprised. People have no idea what they don't know. And I was one of those people. I was looking at these rental properties and it didn't, I couldn't, I assumed, I was like, well, but aren't all rental properties profitable? But I couldn't quite figure out what I was looking for. So, for example, if you're buying a rental property, there are two primary kind of ways to profit on a rental property. Um, I should say focuses because there's actually 5 profit centers on a rental property. Make sure to check out that video because it's super exciting. I'll link to that one in the comments also. But when people are pursuing rental properties, they're usually pursuing it for one of 2 avenues or maybe some combination thereof. Cash flow means you're putting money in your pocket every single month because the income on the property is more than the expenses. Or they're doing an appreciation play and they're hopefully they're anticipating very strongly with good data to back this up, because essentially banking on appreciation is speculation. So you don't want to get yourself in trouble. Ask everyone in 2008 how they feel about speculating for appreciation. But some people will invest solely for the appreciation, which means the value of the property goes up over time. And in the case of rental properties, the rent income goes up over time. So maybe you're cash flow negative for the first 5 or 7 years, I don't know. And then it switches and you become profitable. You're now in the black. So those are different strategies. So if you're going to go buy a rental property, are you anticipating that you're going to make positive cash flow every month? In that case, make sure you run the numbers. Or are you anticipating that there's going to be appreciation? Why do you think that's the case? Yes, generally real estate numbers go up over time. Yes, but first of all, how much appreciation are you going to need to make up for the negative leading up to it? Or how much appreciation are you anticipating? Why are you so confident that that appreciation is going to happen? Again, 2008 being a prime example. So with a rental property, all the other profit centers aside, because those are more secondary, you should be buying a property that has good reason to believe that there's either going to be positive cash flow or significant appreciation or some combination thereof. Make sure you know where your profit's coming from. One of the biggest examples I hear people talk about all the time, and I don't want to knock this strategy because it can be a phenomenal strategy, but I feel like the term has become a little trendy, and the idea has become a little trendy in the sense of everyone just assumes that's what they should do, and that if they do it, it's going to be profitable. It's house hacking. I think that's a slightly newer term over the last few years, but basically, let's say you buy a fourplex and you live in one of the units and then you have tenants in the other three. The whole idea with house hacking is that you are hopefully covering your mortgage. Maybe you're living free because the income from the other three is paying the mortgage on the property. All the while, you're getting the tax breaks, the possible appreciation, all that kind of stuff. In some cases, maybe the income, maybe it's a duplex. So maybe you live in one unit and there's somebody in the other unit, or house hacking could even be a single family house and you're renting out the rooms. So house hacking means that you're living where the investment property is or in the investment property, and tenants of some sort are paying you rent, covering your living expenses. Fantastic strategy. However, again, a lot of people assume that if you do that, you're profitable. That may not be the case. Depending on where you live or what you buy, like I'm in Los Angeles, if I buy a duplex near me where I want to live, the chances of that other unit's income covering my mortgage is about zero. It's probably about a negative chance. If it's a fourplex, maybe, probably not. Like there's no positive cash flow in Los Angeles. So it's, those numbers tend not to work out like people say. And so like I hear people all the time in Southern California where it's some of the highest priced properties in the nation. And they're like, I'm going to house hack. And if you actually break down the numbers, so let's say you buy a fourplex, the tenants are paying whatever market rent, you're living there, and you have this mortgage on that property. Quite often, I've seen it in Southern California where if you actually run the numbers, it would cost you less to rent your own apartment by yourself. So now you're in a situation where you're owning a property and it's costing you so much to do so, regardless of the income that it's bringing in. What are you in this for? Like, yeah, if you're talking like a 30-year type of thing, long-term appreciation, possible for sure. But make sure you know that that's your plan, because if you're not positive cash flowing from the get-go and you're paying out still every month, regardless of what those tenants are paying, be aware of that. It's not saying you shouldn't do it or can't do it, but know your numbers. This is your business plan. So you're in a fourplex. Those three tenants are paying X number of dollars. Your mortgage payment is Y number of dollars. How are you going? Where's your profit? Find it. Don't just buy the property and be like, yay, I'm house hacking. It may not give you a profit. So before you invest in any property, whether you're house hacking, I said these before, flipping, burr model, rental properties, whatever you're doing, make sure you understand the strategy that you're doing to the point where you can say, here's my plan for how I'm going to profit. I realize it's not a guarantee, things can happen. Here's the mitigations I have in place, against the risk for this. However, this is my plan to profit. You would be shocked how many people, or maybe not shocked, how many people go diving into real estate investing having no clue their plan to actually profit. Again, it goes back to, well, at least for me, that mindset of just assuming every investment property makes for a good investment, or every property makes for a good investment property. It's just not true. And it's actually not true in most cases. Know where your profit is coming from. Have a plan for how you're going to profit. It's just that easy.